Hello and good day, and welcome to day 3 of National Small Business Week. Very special celebration and occasion here in our Dreaming with Entrepreneurs in Google Plus community. There are 2 weeks out of the year that I try to get as involved as I possibly can. One of those is, of course, National Small Business Week, so designated by the Small Business Administration. I believe they began this celebration in the early 60s so that small businesses could step back for a moment, pat themselves on the back, and say, you know, what we are doing as a small business is really worthwhile. We are bringing value to our customers. We are bringing value to the marketplace. We do indeed create about 2/3 of new jobs are created. So you know what? Small business is the heartbeat of business activity in this country. So the SBA, Small Business Administration, decided to celebrate the week. And I'm going to take a quick screen share here to see where the SBA is today, because each day this week they are in another city. Let's see where they are today. And I'm going to keep that screen open, and I'm going to do a screen share here, I hope. Okay, Susan and Scott, you are seeing the Small Business Administration screen there?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Okay, well, I'll real quickly.
Just tell us where they are.
Yeah, I will tell them they're in San Antonio, Texas today.
Awesome.
And they're going to be talking about volunteer benefits, not just for the big guys. I urge you to go to sba.org and follow it and see what they're doing, not just during National Small Business Week. The Small Business Administration has one of the finest well, they have the finest websites for small business, and they have over 4,000 pages in their website. So it's got to be the biggest collection of small business information that there is. So, without any further ado, let me introduce 2 friends of mine, 2 folks that I met. I don't know. I'd known both of you for somewhere between 2 and 3 years, and we met on a hangout someplace. That's where these relationships usually begin, on a hangout someplace. And from Beaverton, Oregon, welcome to Susan Finch. Let me quickly say about Susan. If you follow me, you know that well, I've done numerous HOAs with Susan, and in fact, last week or 2 weeks ago, we released Chapter 8 of my video book, where Susan participated in a group discussion on marketing. A wonderful discussion that Chapter 8 is. Susan, did you have? Well, you know what? I need to send you. You haven't even seen Chapter 8 yet, have you?
No, but what were you going to ask me?
Well, the point I was going to make, you did, and I don't know how we captured it. I don't know if you remember, but you did this, and you had your face in the center, and it was the most wonderful. I don't know how we captured it, because I don't remember you. You must have done it right at the beginning of the HOA. That's how it was captured.
That was the YouTube random capture?
Oh my God.
Those are never complimentary. I have to tell you, I think they have people seeking out the most obscure, embarrassing moments, because Evie and I can attest to that. They always catch me with weird expressions on my face.
You were doing this, and you have this expression. It was so we couldn't have planned it better. We could not have planned it better. It was wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
Why don't you tell folks what it? Well, I don't even know how you're going to focus on what you do in Beaverton, Oregon, because you've got so many things going on. Make sure you talk about your foundation.
Okay.
Because that's an important thing.
Well, folks, I started out actually in '89 with my first business, and not to be blunt and crass, but it was with dead people's money. And I started an antique business with my soon-to-be ex-husband, and we traveled around the country, and we picked things. This was before eBay. It was awesome. It was so much fun to go find all these treasures and things. But I have to say, one of the things, it was more of a hobby that truly wasn't a business. I really wanted a business. I'd worked for people. I'd worked in small firms primarily, never large firms. And I was blessed to have worked for a couple of people with such high integrity and the ability to encourage me to grow and learn skills. I knew I wanted to have my own business at some point, but modeled after how they ran theirs. So that led me on this path, after that antique business and some other things, to web development. I got into PR and marketing in 1985 and went in and out until, I would say, about 97, 96, when I left an art gallery that I had, a retail business. Oh, that was hell. Love the art, hated the hours, and got back into PR and marketing and stumbled into web development. I did not go to college. I tried it out. It did not fit with my lifestyle at the time. I had several scholarships I turned down, including West Point, UC Davis, and a few others. I wasn't in a place that I wanted to take advantage of that. So I learned on the job. I learned through life experience. And I pushed myself forward and have always had a high work ethic. It was ingrained in me from the time I was a child.
I'd like to interrupt you for a moment.
I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
No, with a lesson to be learned, because you just said something that made me think about my past. You said that college wasn't for you, so you just went out to figure out what was for you, and that you figured it out, and you obviously you've made all the right decisions because your life constantly is moving forward, and that's
let me stop you there. I didn't always make the right decisions, but I accepted the path those decisions created and chose to spin them into something positive. So it's what you do with the results of your choices that determines whether you're going to be a success or not. You can wallow in it, you can roll over, you can lay down, you can cry, you can give up, you can bow down, and I go back to waiting on tables, which is what I did in high school. But and I have to say, I know that's always an option. But I'm pleased to say that I was able to look at any spin, bump, roadblock that came my way as an opportunity to change paths, adjust, or learn something new.
And to that point, I went to college for 5 years, probably wasted 5 years in college based upon where I am in my life today. I've never taken a business course in my life, never taken a marketing course in my life. I've been an instructor in marketing courses, but I've learned from the streets. I'm a street urchin. My customers have been my greatest teachers over the years, because they taught me what I needed to know and what I wanted to do, and there's one final point I want to make, and I hope, I'll have an argument. I'll have a debate with, if somebody goes to college, Susan, and I think you'll probably support me on a statement I'm going to make right now. If somebody goes to college and they know that they ultimately want to start a business, my argument is, why go to college and spend $100,000 to learn things? Just get into the business and start learning, and call on mentors and call on coaches to learn the things that you might learn in college. Now, I have a very, very good friend here in Cincinnati. He started the entrepreneurship department at the University of Cincinnati, and when I've had this discussion with him, you know, it's a slug match. It's a slug match because he created a department of entrepreneurship. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm careful on saying that, oh, it doesn't do any good to go to college.
I didn't.
No, I know, but I'm careful to not go down that path. And I will say that the courses I took, I was very selective, and I actually draw from them. I went to college with the intent of being a children's book author. And so I took children's literature courses, but I also took one course that practical application, because I have kids and we volunteer at school, retail display. What a dopey class to take. Yet, I used it in my retail businesses, that antique hobby, my art gallery. I use it at the school for the school auctions. I use it in my home. And some of those basic design elements come into play from web development, graphic design, logo design. It's interesting how we don't realize how much those experiences seep in. So, yes, college, business courses, and I've talked to many CFOs, CMOs, CEOs of larger corporations through SLMA radio, and the one thing they say, they're so disappointed when they go in to conduct a workshop or speak to a group at a college. What they are teaching is not practical. It is so behind the times. It is not something that can be used. They aren't teaching the practical application. My niece, I'm mentoring her now because mentorship, you guys, is huge. Small business owners. You have to pick 2 people to mentor this year. That's it.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
So my niece, though, she's an English major. She wants to, she's into literature and things. But when I told her the money she could make if she knows how to write decent paragraphs and do some research in social media, in blogging, in different things, she was stunned. She said, they never even talk about that. And I said, every industry needs to know how to write. Every industry, with the way sites are set up with blogging and WordPress and things, you need to know basic code tweaking. Those are 2 skills that are must-haves with very practical applications in every industry that you might want to start a business in or go to work in.
Well, two famous entrepreneurs that we all know. One's name is Bill Gates. One's name is Mark Zuckerberg. For some reason, they both dropped out of Harvard in their sophomore years to go and build businesses that were, they speak for themselves. Scott Silverstein. I do know a little bit about your background. Actually, I don't know about any college, if college was in your background, but I do know that you've been a small business owner for a pretty long time. Why don't you share some of where you are today and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, thanks a lot, David, and thanks a lot for having me on your show today. And also, Susan, it's an honor to be here with you.
It's not on my show today. It's a chapter in my book today.
Well, Chapter 3, Small Business Celebration by David Leopold.
Well, it's not Chapter 3, but it's in its teens someplace.
Well, I want to get the book, but I guess it's not a book. It's a digital publication, correct?
It is. It actually changed a little bit. It's hosted on a Google website, and you don't really buy a book. What you do is you buy access to that website. It's a different approach, and it makes a lot of sense. And it was a good business decision on my part to do it that way. But
no paper and ink, right?
No paper and ink, man. My hands are clean.
So my background, I've been involved in some form of business ever since that I can remember. I can remember as a kid, I was the only kid on doing the lemonade stand in the neighborhood, and I was charging good money for those drinks. I mean,
You were the only kid in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania that did lemonade?
No, we're talking about Bradford, Pennsylvania. Bradford, Pennsylvania is a small town 80 miles south of Buffalo, New York. It's
Near Jamestown, New York.
near Jamestown, 100 miles east of Erie. You wonder how I got up there, but my father moved there from, he was an immigrant from Poland, came, I guess he was on his way to Chicago and got off the train early. Chicago, Bradford is about halfway between New York and Chicago. But anyway, I went to the University of Pittsburgh, and my goal was always to have my own business.
Okay,
And
so,
probably
but
unlike,
when you went,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, when you went to college, you could afford, I mean, tuition certainly wasn't then what it is today, and it was a different mindset, a different consideration.
Oh, back in those days, I don't want to age myself here, but back in those days, the tuition at the University of Pittsburgh per term was about $900 to $1,000. It was a state-related school, so there was some compensation that you got from the state of Pennsylvania. Today, a 4-year degree at Pitt is going to cost someone with housing and everything close to $100,000. So, yeah, my wife in the other room, she overheard me say the number 100. It's 120,000, and you got to believe her because she's the accountant in the family. But anyway, I went to Pitt. The first day that I was there, I was ready to set up some kind of deal. So I took 4 years at Pitt, and I represented a company that was part of Playboy magazine called, I think it was National Student Marketing. And I had all the Pittsburgh universities. I had Carnegie Mellon, I had Duquesne, I had Point Park, I had Pitt. And for 4 years, I was involved with them from the get-go. And what I did was I promoted Exxon credit cards. If you wanted an Exxon credit card, if you had gone to any of these colleges, then I could get you the card. And on the weekends, we just signed up people to get an Exxon credit card. So I was always entrepreneurial from the get-go. It might be in my blood, but I don't think so, because my father and my brother and my nephew, I got a long line of physicians in the family. So I'm not sure whether that's related to my DNA at all.
Okay. Well, one thing, as I listened to both of you, and there is certainly, it's probably one of the most important concepts that an entrepreneur, a small business owner must grasp and realize and act upon, and that's opportunity. When certain things are presented to us, if we don't act upon them, somebody else is going to act. Now, every opportunity might not be a good one. It might not be a good one, but if your gut tells you that maybe it is, it's probably something that you should pursue. What do you think about that? Is that a fair statement to make, Susan?
Well, yeah, because that leads us right into that segue to Binky Patrol. BinkyPatrol.org is a nonprofit. We make blankets for kids that are ill and abused across the country and give them away. When I made that concept up at the end of my gallery stint, when I was throwing my hands up in the air and ready to run from the room with my hands flailing, I did not have everything in place. I knew nothing about a nonprofit, but I kept saying yes. I saw the opportunities presented to me for volunteers, for having my name mentioned on the Oprah show, for people to join me across the country to join this stuff. Had I waited and said, oh no, Oprah, I'm not ready, I would have missed that entire opportunity. And so I think you're right, it's your gut. And being, a person of faith, that's me hearing God talking. And when I hear that, I know I got to go with it. Whether it's good or bad, whether it's stopping something, or changing a path, or leaping in. I have to do it. And it's very rare that it has let me down.
Scott, when did you see the light, if you will, to get involved in printing? Because that's where you and I share commonality. I started my entrepreneurial career as a publisher, and almost bought a print shop one time, but my gut told me, Susan, it wasn't the right thing to do, so I didn't do it. But you got yourself involved pretty early on, I would assume, in an industry that today is dramatically changed and its approach and successes and failures.
Yeah, you talk about a technology taking an entire industry out. Let's talk about business forms. When I graduated college, I took a short. I was worked for the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue for a short period of time, and it was not the kind of job an entrepreneur is going to enjoy. When I realized that I didn't want to sit at a desk and be unhappy for the bulk of my life, I decided I'm going to get into a business. And what I realized that you could be a printer and you didn't really need anything other than a purchase order. You get a purchase order, which, very easy. Companies cut purchase orders all the time. And then you take that purchase order to a print shop and you buy the printing that you sold. And it was simple. And on some days off, I went around to some local businesses in the Harrisburg area, and I was successful. I was successful at selling business forms, invoices, computer paper, checks, statements, all that paper stuff. And when I realized that this is very doable, I put my resignation into the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue. I started the business on top of a coffee shop, and then off a coffee table. In those days, I even paid someone to manually type invoices out for me, and I went and started a business for me. In those days, Harvard Business School would say that you needed to take 5 years. It would take 5 years to start a business. By the time it got going, where the phone was ringing all day long, figure 5 years. And amazing. I had that thought, 5 years, and then all of a sudden I realized I'm not making any calls anymore. Everybody's calling me. And it was nice. It was nice to be in your own business. But I'm going to tell you, work hard. There was never a day off. But it was satisfying. It was rewarding. But guess what happened? Technology changed the entire industry. When folks realized that they could network computers and pass information around digitally, and you didn't need the filing cabinets anymore. Everything could be scanned and stored. And the price of storage dropped to just about nothing. Business forms decided to go away. And I guess that was one of the reasons why I was intrigued by Google Plus technology, because not only business forms were going away, but the cold call, the walking and talking cold call in sales was going away too. And I was too young to pack it in. I wanted to learn some of this stuff.
Question for you, Scott.
What was that?
Why would anybody want to make a cold call? I thought, isn't it much more pleasant for a sales call to be a warm call instead of a cold call?
Well, some of them were warm.
I'm being a little sarcastic, but I hate the expression cold call.
But that was how it was done. I mean, at that time, we didn't. It's changed so much, and that's, gets back to what's being taught in college. Some of them are still teaching the 4 Ps, and different aspects on funnel marketing and cold calls, and this is how you do sales. Like, oh my gosh, please stop.
No, Susan, I was being a little sarcastic when I said.
No, I know that.
No, but my point is, I don't think I've ever made a sales call. Well, 90+% of the sales calls I've ever made in my life, I was able to identify, or thought I could identify, a pain point with the person with whom I was going to speak, either face-to-face, on the phone, and as technology changed the way that we communicate with folks. I did my homework to find out what a pain point, what a potential pain point could be. Today, it is so simple to identify pain points. We didn't have all the technology available to identify those, but we can now. And so why make a cold call? And people still have that mentality of a cold call. It's not cold. It's not cold if you identify a pain point. You agree with that?
Yeah, but coming from having sold copiers.
Oh my goodness!
Pulling out the yellow pages by zip code and making cold calls and creating a pain point to at least get the demo in there, because I knew if I got in there and they had a caca product, I knew I could sell them because I had a good product. So I come from a different place. I've sold rope, anchors, rubber boats, lifeboats. I've sold some things. So sometimes they are cold. And sometimes
like I said, I was being sarcastic when I said that. It was
I was grateful I don't have to do that anymore.
Brian Tracy, I was listening to one of his CDs a couple months ago, 5 or 6 months, whatever, and he was talking about copiers, and that's when you said copiers, and how there was the old school way of selling a copier, and then somebody came up with a new school way of selling it, and immediately put the old school way was cold calling. Because everybody needed a copier. Everybody needed a copier. So you just went up and down the street, and if you called on 10 people that day, you would probably find one that needed a copier. Is that pretty much how it went in those days? Okay.
It is.
Scott, do you have a
hopefully, Susan, you stayed around to cash in on the fax machines too. that was another.
I worked for Rico, and so we had offset printers and stuff too.
Yeah, those fax machines. That was another piece of technology you needed.
That was my foray, though, into a daytime job, because it was kind of this intervention my family made to get me out of working in restaurants as cocktail waitress. And my cousin owned a copier business, and it was like, okay, you're going to work for us, you're going to do the trade shows, and you're going to do this. And so that's where I started my journey into 9 to 5 with weekends off. And I liked that. I liked having the weekends off, and I liked having those nights off.
Susan, Scott talked a little bit about technology and how important it is for businesses to embrace technology. Would you care to make a comment? And I'm going to assume from your side it's more the marketing side of technology, because that's probably one of your major areas of focus.
It is, and I think part of the problem, for one thing, I hear excuses periodically from people. I'm too old to learn that. I'm sorry, I train people in their 90s, so shut up. If you choose not to learn it, put on your big boy pants and say, I'm choosing not to learn that. Okay, I can respect that. Don't tell me you're too stinking old to learn something. Shut up. Now, as far as how it works in your business, though, I think sometimes businesses, large businesses too, large corporations with departments and things, they confuse technology and tools with strategy.
Good point.
And technology and these little shortcut things we use and social media and all these things are tools that we implement to make our tactics happen that are part of our plan and our strategy, but they are all different things. So just because, oh yeah, I use Hootsuite, that's not a strategy. That's a cheater tool that you use, and that's okay if that's what you're trying to do to free up your time. But you have to really think about, how is technology going to integrate with my overall goals in this marketing strategy, in this business model, in the sales strategy. Marketing, is sales. If I am not marketing properly, I'm not going to get any sales. The goal of every business is to make sales. You are in the sales business. Whatever it is you're doing, you are selling. You are selling your service, your product, your book, your expertise. And if you think you're anything other than a salesperson and as a small business owner, go work for somebody else, because you aren't ready.
You are so on today, Susan. You're hitting all my major themes today. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I want to just say, I always had to step back when I heard, don't sell on social media. Don't get out there and show people that you're trying to sell a deal. You're going to get rejected. People will shun you. They'll cut you off. So there's this whole other way to approach your presence on social media. And it's not supposed to be selling, but like what you said, the end result is that everybody wants to get that sales number to go this way rather than that way, or to stay like that.
Susan, I have a question based upon what you were saying just prior here. Let's assume for a moment that a small business owner has not been involved in social media at all. What would be your recommendation to that individual? And why don't you hit maybe three priority points of what your recommendations would be?
The recommendation is, where are you comfortable? And if you've never done any social media, where do you want to dip a toe in? Don't hit them all. There are too many. Pick one, two, three at the most to listen, to watch, to comment first before you dive in. Get the feel for the tone, for the language, the terminology, the patterns of sharing, and see what you like and don't like. If it irritates you, do you like a salesperson coming to your door every day? Buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. Nobody wants that. You want to build relationships with people. I love getting to know business owners and creating advocacy groups out of them, whether I'm their advocate or they are mine, because I've built this trust in this relationship, and then I'm going to push their stuff. So if you're looking to dip a toe, Facebook is one of the easiest. It just is, because it's a safer place that only the folks you invite in or choose to connect with can see you. Google Plus can be scary, and I have to say that, because anybody can follow you, and depending how tight you put your settings, anybody can make comments and reach out to you and know way too much about you sometimes. And I say that from experience. I've never had to block people on Facebook, except a relative once in a while that they're going off. But as far as Google Plus, I've had to block people, and some people have made me quite uncomfortable with their comments, with what they say, with how they engage with me. I don't like it. So I'm very particular there, and I've become more protective there. Twitter, I use it as my news feed. It's a great place to listen, folks. And I know it might sound dumb, 142 characters. It's a great place to cut to the chase and to follow key people and to see how they're doing it. How are they doing it? Are they only pushing their stuff? If they are, you're going to get tired of them pretty fast. Are they sharing helpful resources? Yes. That's who you want to be engaged with. That's who you want to be. You want to be of value to people. You want to present yourself that way, but first you got to listen to learn the lingo if you're new.
Good point. And actually, I was listening very, very intently on your comments, Susan, because I'm at an interesting point. I spend probably 98% of my time on Google Plus, right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly have a comfort level there. I know I've accomplished what I want to accomplish, but I feel in marketing my book that I have to step outside of Google Plus to market it. Not do the things I'm doing in Google Plus, but also step outside. And believe it or not, I don't know the best way to step out. I know that I want to test on Facebook. I absolutely know I want to do that. I know I want to test on LinkedIn, and I know I want to test on Twitter to see where I can get some results. So I'm in a real learning curve. Need to be in a learning curve on all those environments because I don't use them, and I don't know what works, and I don't know what doesn't work. So we'll have to see where that goes. Scott, do you have let's if we could, because we've started to talk about it a little bit. What I'd like to do is for you to share, Scott, and then we'll go to Susan on her thoughts about small business collaboration and how important or not important you feel small business collaboration is in today's world.
I think it's actually essential because just take example our relationship. I don't think there's an idea that goes by me that I would not eventually bounce it off you. And I sort of look at that as some form of collaboration. I'm also in the wellness space, and I have 7 partners, and we collaborate, and we're collaborating continuously. And we are all out to help each other achieve our goals. And that's how I get paid in that space. When I have partners that achieve their goals, I'm compensated. That was probably one of the reasons why I hooked into that first hangout with you when you were talking about baby boomers and baby boomers not having enough money to retire on. And that was probably one of the main reasons that I got into the space that I'm in today, which is helping baby boomers get that second stream of revenue going that's going to last them into retirement.
It's got to be a fantastic, well, the concept in and of itself, I can certainly identify with as I was a baby boomer in year 3 of baby boomerism, so I'm that old of a baby boomer. But things that we were told 50 years ago or 40 years ago when we started to do the things that we're doing, when we started doing the things and where we are today, the numbers don't match. The numbers absolutely don't match. So we absolutely, well, we as baby boomers, and if you're thinking about retirement, which I'm really not thinking about, we have to understand that there needs to be multiple sources of revenue. Unless you've been an extremely successful, lots of money entrepreneur and you sold your business and you're sitting on $1 million, then you can make the numbers work for you. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge today, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it's we were told that we didn't have to worry about it if we did certain things 40 years ago. Not true. not true at all. And since I'm older than both of you, I could talk from experience on that. But you raise a good point, Scott. And I get this email every day from some folks that monitor that, and they watch retirement and dollars and situations, and it's an important concept. It's very important. Susan, you have a comment on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm the youngest in my family, and everybody's, it's up there close to your age. My husband's older, and you're a fool, folks, if you're looking at information you got 40 years ago and you're thinking it hasn't changed. If you don't stay up on this stuff, and you don't watch the trends, and you don't pick up, your digital paper, your hand paper, whatever it is, if you're not paying attention, yeah, you're going to be buried. You're going to be buried broke too. You need to stay on top of trends, technologies, changes in styles for sales, as we were talking about earlier. It evolves. It's a continuously evolving system that we are a part of. We're, these little cogs and wheels and things. And if you don't shift, you're going to get spun out of the machine. And so collaboration is enormously important. It always has been. That's not new. We do it differently now. We're able to, thank goodness with technology, we're able to do it. I can collaborate with people I would have never known because of venues like Google+, especially because I have a chance to meet them, watch them ahead of time to see if I think they're a Looney Tune or if it's somebody that I might want to actually spend some time with or consider for a project. I can check up on them through online sources. I can check up with them by asking others they are connected with, hey, how do you feel about this person? I'm considering bringing them in on a project. And looking at our mutuals and who they follow, all that stuff comes into play for these collaborative opportunities. I look at my show I do with Evie. Yvonne Hyman and I do a Geek Speak Guide show. And through another project, we discovered that we are very aligned with our overall mission of wanting to help people not feel stupid. And it became our point with no ego involved, that we knew we needed to do this together and collaborate on it. Collaborating is different than a trusted mentor. Collaborating is different than an advocate. Collaborating becomes somebody that your income will depend on how well you do with them sometimes, or the result of that collaboration. So it's a different piece, and some people can cross over into more than one area. But you might, I have a client who is a mentor, who is also a collaborator. She's all, and she affects my bottom line in so many ways, though, other than just writing me a check when I work for her. So we need to really, take the opportunity to collaborate with people. It's how we grow beyond what is in our head. Otherwise, we become myopic based on our own personal experiences this far, right here, and we stop. We cannot evolve without collaborating.
Well, let's break that concept of collaboration down to its very basic form, so that we hear the term. I'm not so sure. It might be an overused term, but let's break it down to its basic. In that, I have certain skill sets, and the moment I try to step out of whatever my skill set is, I'm going to fail. I am going to fail because I don't know enough about that particular thing. But in collaboration, I know that Susan or Scott, for an example, they're much better than I am on that particular concept, that idea, that strategy, whatever. So bring them into the formula. Bring them in, and so you and I together, we move each of our businesses forward by that concept of collaboration. You stated it perfectly with what you and Evie are doing, that you're moving each of your businesses forward by collaborating with one another. But what else are you doing? You're creating a new force in the universe that can assist other businesses in moving their business forward. So it's an ongoing kind of thing, and it really is a concept that must be grasped by small business owners. They have to grasp it and in one form or another, find out what works for them, and put it and make it a part of their business strategy. Scott, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, let me throw out a question.
Sure.
Do you think small business folks are better at collaborating than your large corporations?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're good at
see.
collaboration. We need it. We use it to make money. We use it in our partnerships. We're good at it. I'm not even sure whether
Well,
corporations.
let me step back. I saw a frown on Susan's face, and we're going to address that frown in a moment. But when you say we do it differently, we do it differently than a large corporation does.
There we go.
I just read today. I just read today that IBM is collaborating with Facebook. Today, I just read the story and what that collaboration actually means
For
because
cancer research, yes.
Can't. Well, it's not. They didn't. The article I read did not necessarily boil down to cancer research. It just boiled down to the fact that IBM builds these data systems, and Facebook has the raw data with the billion plus users. They have the raw data, so they're going to collaborate, and they're going to take Facebook data and build databases of information. That is collaboration in its purest form, and they're two of the world's largest corporations that are doing it. So, did I address that frown on your face, Susan?
You did. It is. It's just done differently.
Done differently.
Because I have so much interaction with marketing departments and sales departments. I watch how they, and it's the ones fresh out of college that don't have a clue about collaboration. Once they're in there a while, the ones that are a little more seasoned, they understand building alliances, building advocacy groups, building those strategic partnerships and collaborative efforts to pull from each other's strengths with their other companies, with companies that complement what they do. And then you collaborate to find better solutions to all of a sudden give you both more strength.
The difference is, the major difference is being small, being a solopreneur, small as we are, we can make a decision to collaborate in 5 minutes and work the deal out in 5 minutes, whereas it probably took IBM and Facebook a year, if not longer, to hammer out. They knew that they should do it from a business perspective, but to hammer out the deal, to make it happen, probably took a year. I don't know, maybe quicker. Although Mark Zuckerberg has this thing going, and he loves to find a business opportunity, go out and spend $1 billion, probably his own money, and not tell his board of directors what he's doing, and just he goes out and he does it. I love it, and I read a couple times a year he does that. He bought Instagram. He bought Instagram on a weekend. Didn't tell his board of directors that he was doing it, and they dealt with it Monday morning. So, Scott, you have a comment on that? I see a smile on your face.
Yeah, I mean, as a small business entrepreneur, we can turn on dimes. So I happen to think that's a good thing. Of course, your large corporations, they take a little longer to turn on the dime. Sometimes that's why it was always, from a selling perspective, I loved when I had the opportunity to compete against Standard Register Corporation or more business forms. I take on their customers any day of the year, because in order for them to place an order, they had to call a secretary who had to get a hold of the sales rep, so on and so forth. I could get in, give them a quote, get the deal right there in the same day.
You bring another smile on my face. Two of the biggest deals that I've ever done in my lifetime, they were done on first time, not cold calls, but first time sales calls. I walked out of offices with contracts, and those are fun. Those are really fun when you can do that. But it's, it goes back to understanding the pain. Scott, you were talking about something a little earlier, and I thought a word was going to come out of your mouth, and it didn't. Maybe it was there, it just didn't come out. And it's something that creates an opportunity today, and so I want to throw it out there. It's the concept of brokering. I'm sure in your lifetime you have brokered hundreds of deals and you've made money doing it. The most money I ever made in my lifetime is when I was brokering printing, as a matter of fact. And it was in the days of direct mail. Direct mail was the vehicle. Print, you had to have print to do direct mail, and it was in the 80s. In the 80s, I made the most money I've ever made in my lifetime. Why am I not doing it today? Well, I'm not doing it today because the world has changed. Technology has changed. Susan, okay.
What I was going to say is getting back to the word or the concept of brokering. I had a professor once that said, there's a lot of very smart people in this world. They don't make any money. There's also a lot of very dumb people that make a lot of money. And the question was, what do you think is the commonality between those that make the money? It's not about smarts. And the answer that he said was, and I always remember this, that they just make money in business because they know where to get the stuff done. So I always thought about that because I always brokered deals. I never took the risk to take possession, or I never invested the large money to create the product. I thought, look, that I could get into the middle of this thing. I can make it 10% or 20% or 30%, whatever. In the forms industry, it was a little more lucrative. We worked on a 40% margin. That was a pretty good margin to be a broker. And so what I'm saying is, if in business, anybody really can get into business. They can just become a broker as long as they know where to go get it, because most business people don't know where to get it.
And that's the key to brokering, and I call it a facilitator. That's my strength in life, is being a facilitator. You know where Charleroi, Pennsylvania is, Scott?
Yes.
I found a printer in Charleroi, Pennsylvania, when I was brokering printing, direct mail printing, he printed millions of pieces of direct mail for me in Charleroi, Pennsylvania. and we got him into a post office, and boom, we had a thing going.
Exactly. So, and the other thing about being a broker, it trains your responsibility muscle, because when you're a broker, you take the responsibility for the whole deal, and people like that. They don't want excuses. They want to get things done, and they want you to be transparent. And people like that kind of relationship. And that, I have people that are still buying print from me after 30 years. I think that's incredible.
What's their phone number? I might call them up and see if they'll buy print from me. What's their phone number, Scott?
I'm still trying to hold on to them until I can join the retirement baby boomer generation.
But that comes down. That almost. What I call that as a project manager too.
Yes, absolutely.
So I bring in all the different pieces, and for whether it's marketing, software development, whatever it is, being the project manager, and sometimes it can be quite stressful. This is where due diligence comes to mind for small business owners. And I think we are so excited to have that power to make decisions that we forget to do our due diligence. And then we have to backtrack to make up for what we didn't figure out ahead of time, or the research ahead of time. And folks, I can't stress enough, there's a reason why it takes these bigger companies a year to make a deal. You need to do your due diligence. You can dive in all you want, but if the information is out there, especially, know who you're dealing with, know what the project is, have as much information as you can, at least, to make a more informed decision. Our guts are great, and they're probably on the right path, but it would really help to know, oh, crud, they've burned 5 other web developers, or they've done this. It looks good, it sounds fun, they're exciting, and it sounds great. But sometimes you need to take the step back and do a little bit more research before you pull the trigger on some of these ideas. And that's a responsible business owner. That isn't taking the fun out of it. That's doing it for the long haul. And I say the same when you choose people to collaborate with. Test them on small things first, that if it went awry, you're not on the hook as much, and you don't have egg on your face where you're having to backtrack and rebuild your own reputation.
That's a tough thing to do, isn't it?
Yep.
Crisis management. If you have a crisis management challenge, Susan Finch is a good person to call.
Yeah, and I'll bill you high for those.
Okay, well, we need to move on to the next HOA of the day, but I want to thank you to and basically share that we didn't really have an agenda today, but we had some wonderful discussion, and I want to thank you two for taking time out of your schedules to share in your expertise in that information, and the two of you, I know, are celebrating National Small Business Week because you understand the importance of small business and the role that is played in today's world. So thank you, and it will be a chapter of my book, and as I said, it'll be released in the next 2 to 3 weeks for sure. That's what I want to do. So, Susan Finch, thank you. Scott Silverstein, thank you. Yes, Scott, it looks like you have a final comment.
I was going to say thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate these events and these shows, and you do a lot for over 1,000 folks in this community, and that is a testimony to you, Mr. Leopold, for your commitment to small business.
Well, I thank you for that, and as I typically say when folks will make a comment like that, I'm just doing my job. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, just doing my job. Anybody who is watching this video that will become, as I said, a chapter in my book, How Do You Answer These 100 Plus Questions of Your 2015 Small Business, you have an opportunity to take advantage of some really dynamic technology that we have employed within the book. And under each video in the chapters, there is a real-time live section that is on Google. So when we are getting ready to introduce a chapter, I will put a Google posting out there, give you a little bit of information about what the chapter is about, but the most important thing I do is I list the key words and at what point of the conversation that those keywords appear, so that you can fast forward or whatever to get to that particular part of the discussion. If you go into that stream at any point in time, there's a real-time upgrade on our website where the book is actually hosted. So it's pretty neat stuff, Susan, in the technology. And Scott, well, you and I had many discussions on what technology should I employ, but I think we made the right decision on this one. So thank you, and the next time that we see you may very well be the best time.